everybody. How are you today? We are back for another Bible story reading. And I don't know what's going on with allergies today, but I stepped outside to take care of some, we have some birds, and I went to take care of them, and my sinuses just inflamed. I'll tell you what, these allergies are driving me crazy, so you'll have to bear with me. My eyes are really runny, but we're going to get through this. We are going to get through today's reading. For those of you who are joining one of these videos for the very first time, let me tell you what we do here. We read different Bible stories. We go through the different Bible stories for people who either have never heard the stories, maybe they've only heard bits and pieces of the stories, maybe they don't understand the stories, or it's just been a long time since they've heard the stories. Whatever the reason is, we go through the stories in their entirety. We don't just take out little bits and pieces and talk about it. We just read the whole story. And that way, you have a chance to know what they are, and you can speak about them intelligently if they come up in conversation. Because so many of the things that we talk about in our society, you know, little phrases and little sayings and little things that go on, happen to actually come from some of these Bible stories. We have been reading in 1 Samuel, and we've been talking about David. David had killed Goliath. He had gone to war against a whole bunch of Philistines and has defeated all of these Philistines. And Saul, the king at the time, is very envious and very jealous of David. So he has sought to kill David because he's so jealous of him. Saul has a son named Johnathan, and David and Johnathan are best buds. They are like brothers from another mother. They are best friends, and they love each other deeply. They care about one another. David had been working for Saul, and Saul got upset with him because an evil spirit came on him, and he just wanted to kill David so badly that he threw a spear at David. And David got out of the way and fled. And when he did, he took off and he went to Ramah and hid out with the prophet Samuel for a little while. And then Saul goes there, and Saul ends up with the prophet, and he's prophesying, and it's kind of, it gets all convoluted and it's crazy, but Saul's naked prophesying in front of Samuel. And that was in chapter 19 of 1 Samuel. But now we're going to move on to chapter 20. We never find out when Samuel gets up from being naked and prophesying, but we do know at some point, Saul gets up and goes back home. And we don't know when that is. The story doesn't tell us. But we're going to pick up now with chapter 20, and we're going to read chapter 20. David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came to Johnathan and asked, "What have I done? What did I do wrong? How have I sinned against your father so that he wants to take my life?" Johnathan said to him, "No, you won't die. Listen, my father doesn't do anything great or small without telling me. Why would he hide this matter from me? This can't be true." But David said, "Your father certainly knows that I have found favor with you. He has said, 'Johnathan must not know of this, or else he will be grieved.' David also swore, 'As surely as the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, there is but a step between me and death.' Johnathan said to David, 'Whatever you say, I will do for you.' So David told him, 'Look, tomorrow is the new moon, and I'm supposed to sit down and eat with your king. Instead, let me go, and I'll hide in the countryside for the next 2 nights. If your father misses me at all, say, David urgently requested my permission to go quickly to his hometown of Bethlehem for an annual sacrifice there involving the whole clan. If he says, good, then your servant is safe. But if he becomes angry, you will know he has evil intentions. Deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought me into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I have done anything wrong, then kill me yourself. Why take me to your father?" "No," Johnathan responded. "If I ever find out my father has evil intentions against you, wouldn't I tell you about it?" So David asked Johnathan, "Who will tell me if your father answers you harshly?" He answered David, "Come on, let's go out to the countryside." So both of them went out to the countryside. "By the Lord, the God of Israel, I will sound out my father by this time tomorrow or the next day. If I find out that he is favorable toward you, will I not send for you and tell you? If my father intends to bring evil on you, may God punish Johnathan and do so severely if I do not tell you, and send you away so you may leave safely. May the Lord be with you, just as he was with my father. If I continue to live, show me kindness from the Lord, but if I die, don't ever withdraw your kindness from my household. Not even when the Lord cuts off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth." Then Johnathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, "May the Lord hold David's enemies accountable." Johnathan once again swore to David in his love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself. Then Johnathan said to him, "Tomorrow is the new moon. You'll be missed because your seat will be empty. The following day, hurry down and go to the place where you hid on the day this incident began, and stay beside the rock Gazelle. I will shoot 3 arrows beside, as if I am aiming at a target. Then I will send a servant and say, 'Go and find the arrow.' Now, if I expressly say to the servant, 'Look, the arrows are on the side of you. Get them,' then come, because as the Lord lives, it is safe for you, and there is no problem. But if I say to this youth, 'Look, the arrows are beyond you,' then go, for the Lord is sending you away. As for the matter you and I have spoken about, the Lord will be a witness between you and me forever." So David hid in the countryside. At the new moon, the king sat down to eat the meal. He sat at his usual place in the seat by the wall. Johnathan sat facing him, and Abner took his place beside Saul. But David's place was empty. Saul did not say anything that day because he thought something unexpected has happened. He must be ceremonially unclean. Yes, that's it. He must be unclean. However, the day after the new moon, the second day, David's place was still empty. And Saul asked his son Johnathan, "Why did Jesse's son not come to the meal either yesterday nor today?" Johnathan answered, "David asked for my permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, 'Please let me go because our clan is holding a sacrifice in the town, and my brother has told me to be there. So now, if I have found favor with you, let me go so I can see my brothers.' That's why he didn't come to the king's table." Then Saul became angry with Johnathan and shouted, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman! Don't I know that you are siding with Jesse's son to your own shame and to the disgrace of your mother? Every day Jesse's son lives on earth and your kingship are not secure. Now send for him and bring him to me. He must die." Johnathan answered his father back, "Why is he to be killed? What has he done?" Then Saul threw his spear at Johnathan to kill him, so he knew that his father was determined to kill David. He got up from the table fiercely angry and did not eat any food the second day of the new moon, for he was grieved because of his father's shameful behavior toward David. In the morning, Johnathan went out to the countryside for the appointed meeting with David. A young servant was with him. He said to the servant, "Run and find the arrows I'm shooting." As the servant ran, Johnathan shot an arrow beyond him. He came to the location of the arrow that Johnathan had shot, but Johnathan called to him and said, "The arrow is beyond you, isn't it?" Then Johnathan called him, "Hurry up and don't stop." Johnathan's servant picked up the arrow and returned to his master. He did not know anything. Only Johnathan and David knew the arrangement. Then Johnathan gave his equipment to the servant who was with him and said, "Go, take it back to the city." When the servant had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone Gazelle, fell face down to the ground, and paid homage 3 times. Then he and Johnathan kissed each other and wept with each other, although David wept more. Johnathan then said to David, "Go in the assurance the 2 of us pledged in the name of the Lord when we said, The Lord will be a witness between you and me, and between my offspring and your offspring forever." Then David left, and Johnathan went into the city. That is a long chapter. There are 42 verses in that chapter, but we got through it. So remember, there are 3 ways that we look at Scripture when we are learning about it. What does it say? We have to have reading comprehension. We have to know the words on the page. What was it saying to the people of that time? In other words, what was the culture like? What was the history like? And lastly, what, if anything, is it saying to us today? So what did we just read? We read that David is upset because Saul is trying to kill him. So he says to Johnathan, remember before Johnathan said, "No, my dad's not trying to kill you. Why would my dad kill you?" And sure enough, his dad was trying to kill him, and that's why he fled. Well, this time he goes to Johnathan, he's like, "Look, what have I done to your dad that he's trying to kill me?" And Johnathan said, "My dad's not trying to kill you. If he was trying to kill you, he would have told me. He tells me everything." And David's like, "No, he didn't tell you this. And he didn't tell you this because he knows that you and I are really close." So they devised this plan between the 2 of them. Johnathan says, "All right, look, tomorrow is the new moon, and there's going to be a feast. So you don't show up at the feast." And David says, "You tell your father if he misses me at all." That's one of the cool things about David, is he was so humble that he didn't even think, "Well, I'm so important that your dad's going to miss me at that feast." Nope. Instead, he said, "If he even misses me at all, then you tell him I asked you if I could go to Bethlehem to sacrifice with my family, to make a sacrifice with my family." And Jonathan's like, "All right, good plan. And meanwhile, I'll feel him out. If he misses you and I tell him what happened, if he's okay with it, then you're safe. If he's not okay with it, I'll know that he intended to kill you. And then I'll come out and I will shoot an arrow, or arrows actually, and I'll have my servant boy go get the arrows. And if I say to the servant boy, 'Look, the arrows are on this side or that side,' you'll know it's okay, that my dad's not trying to kill you. But if I say, 'Look, the arrow went beyond you,' then you will know that my dad does intend to kill you." So in the meantime, one of the things is that they make a covenant with each other forever. Johnathan knows that at some point, David is going to become the king. He knows that David has been anointed. And they make this covenant. And he says, "If my father intends to bring evil on you, may God punish Johnathan," meaning himself, "and do severely if I do not tell you, and send you away so that you may live safely." And he also goes on to say, "Don't ever withdraw your kindness from my household, not even when the Lord cuts off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth." He knows that God is with David, and that if his father does intend to do something bad to David, that Saul's household will suffer for that. And Johnathan asks him, "Please, even when we're cut off from the kingship, please don't remember to be kind to my family." So Johnathan goes into this banquet. He's sitting there, and the first day, Saul realizes that David is missing, but he doesn't say anything. He thinks to himself, well, something must have happened to make him unclean. Maybe he killed somebody, maybe something happened. And so he doesn't say anything. But then the next day he notices he's still missing, and he says, "Where is the son of Jesse? Where is David?" And Johnathan says to him, "Oh, he asked me if he could go to Bethlehem. I let him go to Bethlehem for a sacrifice that his family is making." And Saul gets mad, so mad. He says to Johnathan, he says, "Look, you're siding with the guy who's going to take your kingship from you." And he's so mad at his son that he tries to kill his own son. He takes a spear and tries to kill him. That's when the light bulbs come on, and Johnathan realizes, oh, he really was going to kill David. And so he realizes his father really is going to kill David. He's determined. So he leaves, he's grieved, you can imagine how upset he is. He just realized that his father had intended to kill his best friend, his brother from another mother. And He goes out now and does what he says he's going to do. He shoots some arrows, and the servant boy is going to get the arrows, and he shoots it beyond him, and he says, "The arrow is beyond you." And that's how David knows it's, I better get out of here. So he tells the servant boy, he says, "Hurry up, just get the arrows and come back." And then he tells him, "Go take all this stuff back into the city. Well, I'm just going to hang out here." And he sees David, and David falls on his face. He kisses Johnathan. They hug, they weep. It says here, although David wept more. How much more grieved David was over the situation even. And they said their goodbyes, and Johnathan went back into the city. This is quite the story. I told you when we started in on this that this was going to be like an action-packed adventure film. And, you can just see all of this unfolding. These two men talking, and one says, "My dad runs everything by me. He's not going to kill you. He would have told me if he was going to do that." Nope. He finds out that all this time his dad's been lying to him. Not only was his dad lying to him, but he tried to kill him. So it's getting really good. But we do find out that the Lord is with David. That all of these things, these seemingly terrible, painful things, had to take place in order for Saul to eventually be removed from his seat as king and David to take over. And there's more to come. There's a lot more action to come as Saul continues to try to take David's life. Well, I hope you learned something today. And I am looking forward to us finishing up this story of David. Until next time, have a great day and God bless.